Okay, we're going to move to our next spotlight, which is with Eleanor. We're going to talk about ROI on learning, which is very related to everything that we just talked about. And so when we were talking initially, we were talking about those customer-facing employees. Who here works in some kind of an organization where you have some kind of customer-facing group? Yeah, pretty much all of us, right? So what's the biggest issue when we have that? It's time, right? It's trying to figure out that trade-off. And so if you'll talk for a little bit on how to figure out that ROI on learning, and then we'll open it up.
Well, you know, I do manage a diverse set of teams from kind of marketing, membership, sales, and then our admissions and guest services team, which is really our sort of frontline sales teams. So they're taking tickets when people come, and they're also recommending things. They're telling people, you know, what to do when they come to the Science Center. And you know, so I was thinking about this question, you know, especially as it relates to frontline employees. You know, there's a hard cost for any employee when you pull them off, you know, to train, and sort of opportunity cost. What aren't they doing? For frontline employees, I think it's more on the scheduling side. That's kind of a complication. And so, but when, you know, we think about when that makes sense and how to justify it, you know, I think about training in sort of 3 different buckets. I think the first is, you know, what are the things that, you know, our team needs to do their job? So that's training on updated systems or policies, things like that. The second is what is going to make them really excited and want to do their job even better. And so for the Science Center, we want to make sure that they've seen all the IMAX movies that we have to offer. We want to make sure that they've experienced the latest virtual reality that we brought in, so that when guests ask them what they should do, they can speak genuinely about it and give kind of personal recommendations that come from experience. And then I think third is just investing in those high potential employees. So making sure that you're giving them opportunities for leadership training, that you're giving them special projects. But beyond, you know, I think specific trainings themselves, I think one of the most important things is just having that culture of learning. And that's something that we try really hard at the Science Center to do. I mean, we talk about, you know, we're a learning and growth culture. And so training doesn't have to happen by pulling people off the floor. Training can happen in those conversations on your way to lunch. You know, you can say, a supervisor can say, hey, you know, I noticed you did, when you talked to that customer, this seemed to really resonate. Or, hey, you know, I've noticed that, you know, when I'm trying to, you know, sell them something or sell them a membership, here's what I say that works really well for me. So, and that's also something that we've tried to incorporate, you know, into both informal conversations, but also like our morning meeting. So that's every day before we open, we all get together and we talk about what's coming for the day. And that we've actually incorporated kind of a 5-minute section where we do different role plays. So we say, you know, here's a guest situation that happened the other day. How would you handle it? And so we kind of do these mini trainings, and we'll also invite people to share, you know, what has worked for them. So one of the tasks that our reps are, one of the tasks that they do is they sell memberships. And so they share kind of, oh, you know, here's, you know, what I found successful in, here's how I talk about membership pays for itself within 2 visits. And they'll kind of share the scripts and things like that they use. So I think sort of just making time for just training opportunities throughout the day is something that I think is probably even more effective than actually kind of pulling people off the floor to do kind of specific trainings. And then on the ROI question, you know, that's always something that we're looking at too. You know, I think there's hard and soft things that you can measure. I mean, you can measure, we look at eNPS, so employee NPS, we do an employee survey, you know, twice a year, so we track that. You know, we do track sales by rep, so I mean, there are hard things that we can look at to see, you know, how they're doing, are they improving, you know, is that a rep that might need some coaching?
So, ROI.
I mean, I guess one thing that I would add on to what Eleanor said, and kind of touches on something Justine said about, you know, building trust in the organization, that you're there to help them be more successful as individuals and as a group. I think it's, you know, being creative in, you know, programs that you can, you know, learning programs that you can offer yourself or that you can source within the organization. And I think that just shows that you're creative with your resources, you're able to provide effective training in a, you know, very cost-effective way or free usually. And so what I've seen is when I was at Simply Measured, we provided lunch for the company every Tuesday. And so that was a time when everybody sat together in the cafeteria, and we usually do our our quarterly business updates during that time, or we'll talk about new product releases or whatever we thought would be useful to share with the organization. And so we also use that opportunity to educate people about different things that they may be curious about around the organization. Like, for example, how does SEO work? Right? I mean, like, unless you're a marketing person, you've heard the acronym, but you don't really know. But it's probably, everyone's probably mildly curious about what it is and how it works. So what we'll do is we'll just invite, specific people across the organization to just talk about, their work and what they're doing. Whether it's a customer success person and talking about what they're hearing from our customers on, what works, what they're happy about, and what they're not happy about. Our salespeople, like how they're feeling about new products or features that we launched. So it's really getting everybody to understand different aspects of the company. And so I think that crowdsourcing, one, makes everyone feel good. We're getting to highlight somebody in the organization. Two, it's free, right? So for you guys, it's an easy win that you're offering training and it's not costing the company anything. And then I think just finding an opportunity to, when everybody's already coming together, you're not having to pull them off for something specific, but you already had that time, you already have, people's attention, and just, add another kind of learning aspect for maybe 20 minutes of that time. I found that's work.
We do something similar internally at Skillsoft. We call it Coffee Talk. And one of the senior leaders will host and bring a guest. And it just helps demystify these positions in the company that you don't get a lot of exposure to. So who's actually creating our products? What's the actual roadmap? All these types of things. So I think that's a really nice way to provide some training.
Mika, one of the things that's been going on lately is learning within marketing. And that was a big ask from the marketing employees recently. Can you talk a little bit about what's been happening and the time and everything that's being invested?
Yeah, I mean, we're going through a transformation where marketers, your traditional view of a marketer is people who create like banner ads and PowerPoint slides and templates and logos, fonts. We're shifting to requiring our marketers to deliver revenue, which is a very, very different task. And we're actually changing their comp structures that are based on how much they actually contribute to our shareholder value, which adds an incentive, definitely. And what we're trying to say is, look, we all have different backgrounds, and some people from F5 have great technical backgrounds. Some people have great digital acumen in terms of digital marketing, having run, they've run SEO strategies and they understand what SEM and SEO and the difference between the two, but some don't. So there's digital acumen, there's technical acumen, there's also business acumen and understanding how we make our money. So it's the conversation that we had at the very beginning on being able to communicate the value for how does selling this thing actually help our company and how does it help our customers? So it requires acumen on both sides. All of that is required if you're actually going to accelerate our momentum in the market. Regardless of the role you play and whether you're in marketing or not, you need to understand those things. But we understand that not everybody has, the highest level of acumen in each of those areas. And so it's a recognition, number one, that we know, including me. I come from very different technical backgrounds, so I don't have all the technical acumen. I do have the business acumen and digital acumen. So it's creating an environment that says this is the bar for all of us. We all have to hit this bar. But it's also creating the environment that says it's okay that you're not there right now. But it actually is, it's required and expected that you'll meet that bar. But it's creating an environment that allows us to say, I don't know what you're talking about. Which is scary just because, especially if you think of me and, I'm supposed to be leading everybody, and I am, but I'm, technically people expect that I know all the things that they should know, which I don't. So it's an admission starting with me of saying, look, I don't know this topic, but I do know this. And it's okay to say you don't know something, and creating a culture that says, I don't know. So let's create an environment where you can ask any question you want about this topic. And we do it across the leadership team. Our CEO is incredible at actually providing that opportunity to safely say you don't know something, because he's catching up on certain things too. And so it's creating the culture, the expectation that we're going to do this, and you need to be here in each of these areas of business acumen, technical acumen, and digital acumen, that it's okay that you don't have it right now, and it's okay to actually put your hand up and say you don't know something. But let's get the avenue to get you to that point, wherever that point is, because everyone's different, which is a bit of a challenge, because you can't say, okay, everybody is going to go through the same curriculum, because they don't need it. So that's both the expectation. It's an expectation. It's a compensation element. It's a commitment to I promised our board on our last board meeting that we would get there. So it's a commitment to the board. Now I have a fiduciary responsibility to deliver it, but it's also an environment that's now not going to create a bunch of fear that says I'm going to get fired if I don't know this, or I can't put my hand up and say I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's the combination of all those things that we're hoping that is going to drive some accelerated momentum to getting people interested in learning in a safe way, so they don't have to feel bad that they don't know something, but they feel like their pay is tied to knowing something, and that's a tough tension.
Yeah. Before we move to the next topic, I want to talk to Rob for a second about basically the same question. From the marketing side, the job being creative work and being expected to build that technical acumen. So in engineering, often the technical acumen is there. What are the skills that you're building in your team that are not the technical skills?
Interesting question. There's different types of training in an engineering organization, I think, and oftentimes engineers are very skeptical of receiving training and completing it, and will try and find ways to hack their way through.
No.
And there's sort of compliance-led training. There's a spectrum of training that people enjoy and training that people hate. And there's this compliance sort of training that everyone has to go through. And I find my engineering teams are like, oh, I get this off my radar. Like, how do I not do this? You have to do this. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have an engineering organization. And I think engineering organizations are full of people who are incredibly autodidactic. They have to learn as part of their job, new languages. They sit there and they pick up books on software and engineering best practices, and that's what they do when they're on the beach in Hawaii. And so you have this weird paradox of an incredibly autodidactic organization or group of people who hate training. And I think a lot of the time we spend trying to make those training opportunities a lot more enjoyable, a lot more fun, less compliance-led, and more about how are we up-leveling the engineering skills, and how are we sitting there and saying, okay, this is an important part of your job. Being a human being is important, and interacting with other people, and this is important. And we do a good job of that, I think. And a lot of the training that we give our people is around that kind of more, we call it ohana and family and trust element within the organization. But we try and make it not compliant. We try and make it something that people have that inner drive to try and learn, and that's a very delicate balance. I don't think it's an either or. I think it can be a both.
Yeah.
One thing that's real though that we struggle with, I've struggled with at different organizations, is employee turnover. You can quantify that. You can say, the cost of hiring a new employee, the lost productivity in this period when we had nobody, there's real hard costs in that. And I think that for me is the best case for, investing in training, because, that's a very, like I said, it's a very measurable thing that I don't know that that's always quantified, but I think it's eye-opening what it is.
So productivity.
Yes.
Yeah, then on the flip side of that, you have productivity, which is, I think most people know how to measure the employee's productivity. So you do have things like time to productivity on the hiring cycle. We know our time to fully productive for an engineer is about 5 to 6 months. It's crazy when you think about it. But if we can get that down, then that's a big ROI for us. And from the marketing side or the sales side, it's obviously a lot easier to measure, because you know when they're hitting their target.
So Skillsoft does have an out-of-the-box leadership development program, and I think those who have seen the biggest ROI with it go with democratizing leadership. So what I mean by that is they're not saying, oh, here's a group of high performers only that are going to take the tracks and the content and be involved in the cohorts. They say, let everyone take it and use it as an opt-in tool. So maybe it's someone who's in an early career that's not really sure what leadership looks like, let them opt in or out, and then it helps you really identify your top talent and who your next bench of leadership will be. So when it comes to like having strength of bench for your next generation of leader, that's like one area.
Yeah, going back to what Eleanor said, the turnover, are people staying? Are you able to promote from within, those kind of metrics?
And I think so the one that I've been through, so at Expedia, we had this program for executive women. So that's anyone who's senior director and above. And we had a couple of things that we did there. One of them is once a year, executive women from all over the world get together. And, they ran the program where, it's really, us kind of leading a lot of the discussions and the training, just all very, smart people in the same room, so leverage them. But what the benefit, at least for me, of that session was really, you now know all these people around the organization that you can ask the stupid question, that you trust and, you're supportive, whether it's someone saying, hey, I'm gonna go talk to your VP, can you tell me a little bit about what he cares about and what I should prepare for, to, what is Agile? It could be like anything. I think that was the biggest benefit. I don't know what their measure was, whether it's retention or what, but the biggest benefit is just you have someone that you can just send a quick Slack message or pick up the phone and ask those questions you may not be afraid to ask because you might be judged. So I think that was the biggest benefit, but also a second part of it was we had, and I don't know what Antigone's title was, but I consider her like basically a professional coach. So she was available to male and female executive leaders in the organization. And so generally I have found that, forced soft skills training hasn't been very effective for me, because it's not because the training itself, but just the timing of when it's offered. I was busy, or I just couldn't focus on it, or I wasn't able to apply it immediately. It wasn't the problem of training, it was problem of, timing and opportunity for me, where having, her name was Antigone, having Antigone as kind of a coach where, depending on what you need, she could do a 360-degree evaluation for you. And then she can pinpoint specific areas that you can work on. And then you can go to her as often or not as you want, working on specific things that are important to you in your own personal development. And that was great because it was very tailored for what I was ready for what I wanted to learn and what I wanted to develop. A little bit harder because you're not touching the volume, but you are getting greater impact. So that's where I've had a really good experience with leadership development.
I think we've heard about one, in fact, with the F5 experiment that you're running. I mean, the activity of getting, the C-level down to be comfortable with saying, I don't know some of these topics, what they mean. That's a leadership development activity, I feel. And I think what I've heard you say is the next level of growth for F5 is tied to you dynamically shifting how the marketing organization works and things. And to me, that's a great example of how leadership development activity has resulted in clear ROI for you. The commitments that you make to the board and the growth, and the leadership development activity of making sure everyone is okay saying, to get there, we're going to have to deal with this problem that we don't know things, and we'll set up some structure around that.
It's through the course of our jobs that we're driving it. And we have more formal, because we are a 20-year-old company and we've got a lot of new people at the company. We have formal leadership development. We've created, different people have different value systems in terms of what it is to lead. And they define it differently. So we thought it was important, because of the backgrounds of all the people we have here, that we formalize across different disciplines and across different people with different tenures and different backgrounds, a common language in terms of what our values are for leadership. And it is about, raising the bar, helping make people more successful, et cetera. So we have that too, and we formalize that. But I think the best learning is when it's contextually relevant, and you understand that it helps you make, helps make you successful and makes your peers successful and your customers successful, and that becomes motivating. And also, because the carrot and the stick, or the vitamin, or the pain pill, whatever metaphor you want to use. I mean, it's nice when there is a carrot out there, and it's a motivator to want to learn, and it's safe to be okay to not know something. You can't possibly know everything.
Yeah.
There's a recent article I just read. It was like, how do you know someone's not as smart as they actually claim they are in the first 5 minutes of meeting them? And it actually is someone who admits that they were wrong. When was it you asked them, when was the last time you were wrong? Or was the last time you changed your mind about something? And if they say, I don't remember, I never am, it's usually, that's your answer.